Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to talk about creations of uh, master or like in manager and a worker1 and a worker2, and or you can say that node 1 and node 2, and or you can say that in a master, or like in worker1 and worker2, because same configurations I'm going to use for Swarm followed by the Kubernetes as well. Due to that, I have like make like in a master and worker1 and worker2. But on the context basis, it will be different. It will be considered sometime a master as a manager and worker1 as a manager 2, worker2 as a manager 3, and something like that. We'll see in details, but this is just the installations part, so don't worry about that. So what we need a three like in different like in virtual box or guest OS, like in CentOS, where we'll install that in Docker in all three, and it will be work as like in master worker, worker2, and so forth. So for these installations, you have to download that in like in one file, which is a CentOS 7 and blah 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 until 2003 ISO. So download this file because it's about to 4 GB, and it will be take long time. So due to that, I have have created the slide because it online it was taking a long time, and I don't have like editing software. So due to that, I'm sorry about that, but the same step you have to follow into that. So let me go. So what will we do? We are going to do, and each and every node we are going to allocate that in memory, which is 4 GB, and processor 2, memory again 4 GB, and processor 2, memory 4 GB, and processor 2. So if your PC have less than 16 GB, don't try this one. So minimum, make sure you have a 16 GB of a memory in your system, then only try this step. Otherwise, go ahead with other installations step and follow that in next step. So what we are going to do at the moment, we are going to create that in a master initially, then worker1 and worker2 will clone from the master. So for creating the master, as I stated, we have to download that in CentOS, and do it offline before starting this video, because otherwise it will take a few minutes as per your bandwidth, and then yeah, I'm just putting this link. I have tested these ones, and it's working perfectly end to end, and I'll suggest to go ahead with this for understanding. And this will be kind of your production specific if you are using the on-premises or data center, or like in AWS, which is you are not using that in AWS Netics, like in cloud specific services, then you have to install that in Docker, maintain that, and this step will be really help it out for you. So what you have to do, just type that in a VM and click on the VMware Workstations Pro app, and then you will be see something like that. What we did that in a previous lectures, we installed the VMware Workstations. Now what you have to do, you have to do that in just click on that in create new virtual machines, which is plus, click on it. You'll be see something like then welcome to the new virtual machines windows, and there will be two options, like in typical, which is a recommended one, and custom, which is advanced one. So we are going to use that in a typical by default selections, and then it will be asked that in I'll be install the operating system later and something like that, but few options. But select that in installer disk image file what you have downloaded, and click on the browse and select that in a file. For me, I have downloaded in Docker Kubernetes, and I have selected it, and then once you select it, it will become like in an browse it, and then the next button will be enable. Click on that in the next, and then type the name here, like in master, and the master, like in it will take automatic, like in a master you can put that in Locations as per like in your preference, like in CD or whatever drive. I just want to keep into that in virtual machines, into that in a document as a default one, and click on the next. Now we have to select, there is a few options here. You have to select that in a GB, like in 20 GB for like in CentOS it's needed. So make sure you have a free space of a minimum 62 GB of a disk space. That is another requirement and in your system. Because three instances we are going to create it, and if there is no space in say, 60 GB, then again it will fail. So by default it's there in second options, but we don't want. Just create the store virtual disk as a single file. Click on that in options, like in what we have, and click on the next. Now there is a next screen. You will be see something like that. Click on the customize hardware and make sure you are selecting that in like in memory as a 4 GB. You can click over here, up arrow or down arrow to increase that in up to 4096, and in second screen you can see select that in a processors as a 2. Click on the OK, and you'll be you'll be see something like that in like in memory 4 GB, processor 2, and then the next screens will become something like that. So here there is a in Windows some thing you have to play with that, like in click into the virtual screens to that in a screen keyboard. So just click on that in this black area, and we have to select that in a first options, like in install CentOS7. So for that what you have to do, click on that in black area and press that in your keyboard button up arrow. So while doing that in a one time up arrow, you will be see that in install CentOS 7 is highlighted as a white, and second one will be like in different color, which is what we have in at the moment. And and click on that in again. Once this is done, then you have to press that in enter. So once you'll press that in enter, it will become something like that, and continue, welcome, something like that. Screens will become, just follow that in a screen, and it will be take a while. After that you'll be see something like that. So here we have to think why and between like independency. So as per like in your language, and like in like in respective sub options, select it. So the download of like in it will be faster, because it will be redirect to that in your nearest locations repository, and it will be downloaded. For me, I have just selected that in English, and English India. So for that you can use that in a keyboard or mouse as well, and select that in India. If mouse is not working, don't worry, just use the tab and then up and down arrow, and you can select it, and then click on the continue. After that, here we will have to do that in bit a small amount of configurations. So click on the date and time and select that in your date and time what you have. Like in for me, I selected the Asia Kolkata, and you will be see something like that, and then come bit down, and then you'll be see that in installations details, next screen, if you'll come all the way down, like and if you'll select here, then the one of that in mandatory setting we have to do that in network and host name, which is really needed, and date and time. So click on the network and host name, and then you'll be see something like that, which is needed. So by default it will be there like in Ethernet ENS33, and but the selections will be off. So you have to make sure this will be on. Click on that in on, then click on the done. Now once this is done, then click on the begin installations here, and then click on the root password, and then set that it will be prompt something like that. So type the root password and confirm root password, and click done. Again you'll be see that in both options is like in like okay now, and it will be take a while, like and then you'll be see something like a screens, sometime later, click on the reboot. After the reboot, you'll be see something like that. Just click on that in like username and type that in a root and whatever's password you have provided. Make sure you are remembering that in name of the user like in root and password whatever you have entered, and then like in you'll be see something like that in the screens where you have prompted. Just type that in IP space A and then make a note of that in like in whatever's IP address is there. For me, I got that in 192.168.202.128. Yeah, so 192.168.202.128, and make a note of that, and this is the IP address of your master node. And sometime for rebooting it will be changed, so no worry about that, and just click on the master node and copy that that in IP address. After that, hopefully you have installed the putty. If not, just install the putty and open the putty. And how to install the putty, I have already placed that in above one of the lecture. And type that in my IP address whatever we got it. For me, I got that in 192.168.202.128, and type the save sessions as a master. If you have a other terminal, no worry about that. Just use that in this IP address, and like and just SSH into that in server. In case of a putty, it will be asked that by default cancel. Click on the yes. So after the acceptance, it will be allow you to log in, and it will be asked that in login as a, well, you can type that in a root and whatever's password you have, then you will be get that in a success screen, and it will be redirected to root at the data for local host. Now step by step few command you have to follow, and again it will be take a time. First command you are going to perform like in a yum update -y, and then system disable firewall, system stop firewall, IP table -l, IP table -f, and get enforce. And then once this is done, then just you have to open the file and change the value, like in what files you are going to open, which is the if you are aware about the vi editor, that's fine. And just type the vi space etc linux config, and then you have to disable. By default it will be enable. And once this is done, then you have to do few more command like yum install nettools, bind utility wget, and remove the docker common, docker Linux, docker engine if already installed, but it is not there, means effort side just we are removing. Re, yum install -y yum util dev mapper persistent data IBM2, and just perform that in one by one command. This is the another command you can think of, yum list docker c. So docker c we are going to use the community editions, which is the for open source -so duplicate and sort in reverse order. And I have copied that in the latest versions. If you want to use that in more latest versions, you will be get by this command. Just go all the way up, and similarly you can get that in 9020 or whatever versions, and replace over here, and then that versions will be installed, and you can replace that like in here as well, like in 18.90 with this value, so you'll be get that in a latest version. I'll try to do that in, but in 18.09.9.3 and whatever's latest versions is there, then do that in system enable docker, system ctl start docker, and system ctl status docker. After doing these ones all done, like in our master node is almost completed. And once you'll do that in system status docker, you'll be see that in active and running, and that almost we are in done. And if you'll see that in docker v or like in docker versions, then you'll be see that in docker versions. So master completions is done. Now let's say like in worker1. So for worker1, creating the worker1, what we have to do, make sure, because this master is a running master node. So click on this drop down and click on the shut down the guest. So once you'll do that in shut down, it will become something like a blank square. So and it must be like in power off, and then right click on that in a master, click on go to the manager and then clone. So once you'll do that in clone, a wizard will become like that. Click on the next, and current state in the virtual machine, so, and click on the next. Create uh, a full copy, or like you need a link copy, so select on that in create a full clone, and then click on that in a next, and the type the name like in an worker1, worker1. So once you'll type the worker1, the destinations will be also changed, and click on the next. You'll be see like in preparing clone operations, creating full clone, and done that. Click on the close. So now we got the master and worker1. Similarly, we'll do that in for worker2 as well. So creating the worker2, same step we have to follow. Click right click on the master, go to the manager, manage, and click on the clone. In welcome screens, click on the next again. Click on the next, click on that in create a full clone, and click on the next, and type the worker2 and click on the finish. It will be take a while, and then again we'll get the screens like that. Preparing clone operations, create a full clone, and then click on the close. Now we got the master, worker1 and worker2. So and you can select that in one by one node, and you can verify that in memory 4 GB, processor 2, and a hard disk 20 GB, and the more important one, which is network adapter, is a net. So click on the one by one and verify that in these 4 5 parameters which is there or not. And that's all about in this video. Of course, due to that in time consuming, I have just used that in PPT and I follow that in a step. And in the version specific, it may be differ, but don't worry about that. Almost similar step will work for different versions as well. And that's all about in this lecture. And thanks for watching.